Good afternoon, class. How are you doing? My name is Austin Krudelek, and today I'm going to be giving my persuasive speech. The topic of my persuasive speech is going to be basically the importance of freedom of speech and my defense for it in the United States. It's going to be lasting somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10 minutes. I think it should be very fun to listen to. I have some great information for you guys. And I'm going to use a bunch of different methods, and it's going to be great. So without further ado, hello. When we think of America, the things that I think about that the country was founded on, what really makes us strong as a group is our freedom of speech is one of the main important things. Freedom of religion, all these freedoms of expression, they really create an incredible environment for learning, for perseverance, and for overall just keeping corruption down, everything like that. It's crucial for the success of our country. During the course of my speech today, I'm going to be going over some big items here. Some of the main pillars of my speech are going to be the foundation of free speech. Where did free speech come from? Who were these great minds that understood how important this was long before their time? Then we're going to go ahead and look at some examples of when freedom of speech has collapsed, when there's countries in the world that don't have the luxuries the United States currently has when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of religion, all these things associated with the First Amendment. And then we're going to take a look at some of the current issues in the United States that are really, actually starting to threaten our freedom of speech. And I think by the end of this, you're going to understand just how important it is in the slippery slope that we do not want to go down at all. So, okay, like I said before, the foundation of free speech. Where did this come from? It's not an innate right we just had. No, we weren't born with this right of freedom of speech. Well, you may say we were, but it was threatened immediately. So basically, the 1700s, late 1700s, America is forming. So we've separated from England. We're here. We need to have a foundation. What are we going to build our country on? Obviously, the Declaration of Independence in the 1776. Some great minds, they formulated that, put it together. But was it perfect? No. Just like most first drafts aren't. This isn't my first time reading this speech. I had to make some amendments. And what did we call that? The Bill of Rights. It was a series of amendments made to the Declaration of Independence. And the first one, and what I think is definitely one of the most important ones, was the freedom of speech. Now, James Madison is the one, he penned this, the Bill of Rights. He believed how important it was, and so did everyone else. It was voted in 3-1 for the Bill of Rights, with the head of this being the freedom of speech. So before this, a few states had Virginia and a few other states, they had added this to their state constitutions, but now it was federal law. That was it, bottom line. But quickly, very, very, very quickly, these freedom of speech rights were being threatened. 1836, a gag order was put out on anything that was against slavery. This was bad. Slavery was bad. And people there was definitely parties at play that wanted to hush this up. And luckily this was repealed in 1844. And in 1863, quickly afterwards, General Ambrose actually stopped. He halted the Chicago Tribune due to disloyal remarks. The ban only lasted 3 days because another great man in history, Abraham Lincoln, he put an end to that ban. He repealed it after only 3 days. Over. But that wasn't the end of it. 1873, the Comstock Law passed a law banning any lewd or obscene mail. But you know what? Honestly, again, there was powers that be beyond just lewd speech. This was basically anti-contraception. This was a time period when the use of contraception, anything to abate childbirth, was very, very, very big. It's an issue now, but back then it was as well. Very, very conservative United States. Again, this was repealed very, very shortly afterwards. Very important. Now, also, in the 1600s, one of the greatest minds of free speech, John Locke, one of the best philosophers out there when it comes to this kind of stuff. Basically, the letter concerning toleration, the 2 treatises of government, all these kind of things regarding free speech. In the late 1800s as well, you had John Mill, another great philosopher. And basically, what he said, and I think it really holds true even today, was that free speech, regardless of what it is, good, bad, or otherwise, you need that to secure the pursuance of knowledge. If you don't hear the bad, how are you going to know what it is? You need to hear both sides of the story, regardless of what it is. Okay. Now, we see these great men cared enough about free speech to make sure it was a part of the foundation of our United States. What were they afraid of? Well, now all these kind of fears have come to fruition. Let's go ahead and take a look at what could become. If we don't put a halt to these kind of things now, where could we be? All right. Well, we all know in the news North Korea, bad place right now. It's an absolute and total censorship of any and all media sources. Nothing's going in, nothing's coming out. Outside press is almost completely shut off. Only 4% of the population has access to the internet. There's mass worship of their authoritarian leader, Kim Jong-il. We've all heard of him. All sorts of issues are being covered up. Mass famine and illness covered up. Terrible stuff. Eritrea, country in Africa. The government owns all media sources. There's absolutely no private media, none. Has the most jailed journalists in the world. Basically, if you're a journalist there and you say something that the government doesn't like, that's it. You're going to jail, and nobody can help you. It doesn't matter who you're from. Also, the internet's a great source for battling corruption, and in Eritrea, only 1% of the population actually has access to internet, which is terrible. Back in the early 2000s, 5 journalists actually were killed in a prison in Eritrea. Terrible, terrible stuff. Another country battling the censorship issue right now is Saudi Arabia. Anything against Sharia law, which is Islamic law that kind of governs all people, that's completely censored. Anything that promotes women's rights is cause for arrest. It's just not good, not good, not good. Basically, I understand these are the worst of the worst scenarios and may not necessarily come to that in the United States, but any objection to free speech, in my opinion, is detrimental to society as a whole. And as of late, this is actually happening in the United States. Not on these levels. No one's being beheaded in the United States for, speaking out against the government or, rights that they stand for. All these hot ticket items right now, abortion, gay marriage, this kind of stuff. But believe me, these things are being censored, good and bad. Right now, a big, big, big item in the media is racism. And furthermore, right now, they're talking about censoring racism. And I can understand the idea that you'd want to censor hate speech. But, in my opinion, sheltering everyone from this kind of speech is bad news as well. Let them talk. They're going to make themselves sound worse. Basically, right now, the internet and schools, these are big, big places where they're actually discussing the censorship. And I can see where they're coming from, but I still think it's a bad idea. Even some developed countries like Australia, they've actually banned racist speech and hate speech. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see where that goes. Nudity. Another big thing right now is nudity. Public breastfeeding, anything like that. And a big thing, again, on the internet. I know recently Instagram banned the nipple. I don't know if you've seen the hashtags Free the Nipple on Instagram, a social media site. France even sued Facebook for banning a painting of a female sex organ. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. Censorship, it just does not lead to the pursuance of knowledge. And it's bad for business. If America continues to choose to censor these things, information available to the public is guaranteed to suffer. And with that, technological advance, all this kind of stuff will suffer as well. We will see. It goes against the Constitution. Another big thing, the Bill of Rights, the pillars of our society, the foundation of our country is being put in question right now. And, it goes against what America stands for. We'll have to really keep a close eye on how this turns out, but I see it going in a bad way. And basically, while everything that is said and shown to the public isn't necessarily right, it needs to be seen. As Americans, we have a right to hear everything. We need to have all the opinions, and the right and desire to be heard and to tell goes all the way back to the foundation of America. So what I suggest to everybody, we stand up for our rights of free speech. We stand up for the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and don't allow these big media sites to censor us. And you know what? That's how I feel about this. And I really genuinely hope that all my other fellow Americans feel just as strongly as I do. I hope I've persuaded all of you to my theory of thought on this. And have a great evening. Thank you so much for your time.